Hello everyone, my name is Hein Klee and I'm the head of international for Nedbank Private Wealth, and I'm joined by my colleague Singh.
Hi everyone, I'm Singh, international specialist at Nedbank Private Wealth.
In many cases, international investing really goes around the diversification of investments, diversifications of currencies, access to markets and product sets that we do not have access to in South Africa. The other important part is geopolitical risk that potentially one can face. The Ukraine is a very good example of geopolitical risk. And the other important thing is diversifying risk. Not all markets and all countries move in the same direction. Emerging markets tend to group itself together, and that's very much driven around commodities and emerging markets. Developed markets tend to focus itself around how much is the consumer spending, what's the impact of inflation. So the important part here of international investments is that it should be a natural extension of your local investments. Doesn't matter where you are in your life cycle. There will always be a portion which we advise our clients to have internationally due to certain factors that one have to mitigate, especially when it comes to risk, enhancing returns, and more importantly, having access to a global village and not just actually focusing on South Africa anymore. So let's practically look at what is the journey that a client would typically go through. Client comes to us and he decides, I want to externalize South African rand into US dollars or a currency of his choice in a jurisdiction or a foreign country which is linked to that specific currency. So it's not to say that if you have US dollars, you can only hold it in America. You can hold it in the Isle of Man in a jurisdiction where your bank account is registered, but in a foreign currency. Typically, your client would go to his bank and say, I've got a quantum or an amount of money. And under the quantum, the South African Reserve Bank allows us certain limits under exchange control. On an annualized basis, you're allowed to take out R1 million, which is classified as the
Discretionary
allowance, and this can be utilized for
various
gifts,
traveling,
etc., etc. And more importantly, you do not need a clearance by the South African Revenue Services to do so.
It's so easy.
The second avenue is your R10 million per year, which is your investment allowance. And that investment allowance, there's certain categories, and for that you need a South African Revenue Service clearance before you can do that. Once those are in place, the client will then go to the bank and say, I want to transfer the money. But this is where the complexity of the journey now comes in. Where do I send this money to? And that's where the international bank account comes in. For the ease of a client that do not want to go through having a physical bank account in a jurisdiction like the Isle of Man or England or wherever that is, the foreign currency account or FCA account is a very quick startup.
Correct. So one has to also distinguish and understand that the foreign currency account, or also commonly referred to as an FCA product, is localized dollar-based, meaning it's in South Africa. We're allowing you the opportunity from Nedbank to go into a currency. So it's not completely out. And with saying that, there's certain parameters that will exclude you from doing particular transactions, and the transactions would be having a full range of international solutions that the focus has. So that's where the clear line distinguishing factors or parameters sit.
So the next step of the journey is now, where's the bank account? Okay, I've started off with the FC account, but I maybe want a little bit more. In a little bit more is I want to buy a foreign investment into a South African asset manager that's done exceptionally well for our family over various generations. Can I access that via a bank account and an investment? That's where the focus account really starts coming in. Absolutely. I think when it comes to the next phase, when it's really starting looking at managing wealth, families, complex structures, etc., that's really where the conduit of the focus account comes in. But I think the important part here is that I almost want to say, once we have you at Nedbank, you don't have to leave Nedbank. You're in our ecosystem. Our ecosystem is there to actually take your money across, but more importantly, drive it through advice. We're not here just to push the product, because over time things do change. The real big benefit that we do have is you've got, as you mentioned, a conduit. The account allows you to have bank account, investment, buy stocks, do lending, etc., etc. And I think that's really where we are different from our competitors in South Africa.
Absolutely. I think also another critical point. So with the advent of, of technology and moving at a rapid rate, Nedbank has really been at the forefront of that. Whereas we're seeing our bankers or custodians, money experts, playing a very advisory role, and technology enabling all of this together, which makes it so much more easier. We're finding our clients are a lot more confident, and they're able to execute on decisions much quicker than traditionally.